There used to be a wooden swing, simple and unassuming, dangling from the sturdy branch of an old oak in the center of my front yard. Nothing extravagant. Just a slab of wood, 2 lengths of rope, and a few endearing squeaks when the wind pushed it. I put it up one summer afternoon, more out of nostalgia than need. Over time, it became a magnet for the neighborhood kids. Every evening, laughter echoed down the block as they took turns soaring back and forth, often barefoot, often scolded by their moms and never bothering me. I kind of liked it, gave the place a heartbeat. Eventually, I decided to take the swing down, not out of spite or irritation, but because I was planning to redo the front yard. I had dreams of raised garden beds and a tidy vegetable patch. The swing had served its time. It was a quiet decision I didn't expect anyone to notice, let alone care about. I was wrong. The moment the swing disappeared, she emerged. Karen. Of course, it had to be Karen. She marched across the street, clutching her lemon-infused water like it was an artifact of justice. "Where's the swing?" she barked, as if I'd removed a town monument. I calmly told her I'd taken it down. It was mine, after all. My yard, my swing, my tree. She gasped like I'd torched a church. "You can't just remove something the community depends on." Community depends on? The swing wasn't public property. It just happened to be loved by the neighborhood kids. But in Karen's world, anything enjoyed by more than one person became untouchable. She muttered something about bylaws and communal spirit before storming off. I thought that would be the end of it. I underestimated the absurdity. The very next day, a line of kids passed by my house, glaring at me like I'd kicked a puppy. One of them solemnly dropped a crayon drawing of the swing onto my porch. A tiny memorial. Karen had apparently spun the tale of the missing swing into some kind of neighborhood tragedy. Soon, parents began shooting me looks at the mailbox. And then Saturday rolled around. I heard chanting. I opened the curtains to see a group, Karen, 6 kids, 2 overly involved parents, and a sad-looking poodle, parading across my front yard with homemade signs. "Bring back our swing," and "Down with the swing thief." They marched like they were staging a revolution, complete with rhythmic slogans and awkward tambourines. I blinked into my coffee cup, unsure if I was awake or dreaming. Still, I tried to ignore it. But Karen was relentless. She launched a flyer campaign, actual glossy flyers, declaring the swing's removal a community crisis. There was a QR code leading to a petition titled "Reinstate the Joy." I wish I were kidding. Even worse, she coined the term "swinggate." The woman had gone full-on scandal mode. The kids were her foot soldiers, sent out with chalk to deface my sidewalk with phrases like, "Swing lives matter." One left a baby swing in my driveway with a note, "This is what you stole from us." I reached my breaking point. I contacted my lawyer. Together, we drafted a formal complaint listing harassment, trespassing, and public disturbance. I submitted videos of the protests, audio recordings of Karen shouting through a megaphone, and even decibel readings showing how loud it got during common nap hours. The HOA shrugged it off. Surprise, surprise, Karen was the HOA president. So I bypassed them and filed directly with the court. Karen, in response, escalated. She made t-shirts, hers "Red Swing Defender," and the children wore ones that said "Victim of Swing Theft." It was theatrical. One mom even told me her daughter wept when she saw the empty tree. I wanted to say, she also cries when someone eats the last marshmallow, but I bit my tongue. When the court date came, Karen handed out invitations like party flyers. "Finally," she told a neighbor, "he'll be held accountable for what he's done." I had to laugh. It was a swing, a literal piece of wood and rope. But to Karen, it had become a symbol of what I'll never understand. Court day rolled around, and sure enough, Karen made her entrance like she was the star of a courtroom TV drama. She wore a blindingly crisp white blouse, huge sunglasses that swallowed half her face, and, of course, a neck brace. When she approached the clerk, she claimed she was emotionally scarred by the removal of a community swing. For a second, I genuinely thought someone had set me up with a hidden camera prank. Her folder of evidence was an absolute comedy goldmine. It had crayon sketches from kids titled "Swing Heaven," a petition scrawled in marker and signed by a bunch of third graders, and, my personal favorite, a photo of her tiny poodle looking depressed under the stump where the swing used to be. She labeled it Exhibit C, Loss of Joy. Meanwhile, my attorney and I came fully prepared. We brought video recordings showing Karen trespassing, yelling into a megaphone on my front lawn, and installing her own swing without asking. We even had footage of a makeshift protest on the sidewalk, kids banging plastic buckets like a chaotic toddler parade, and audio recordings showing she broke several local noise ordinances. Karen opened with a speech so theatrical it could have earned her a daytime Emmy. She dramatically claimed I'd stripped the community of joy and called the swing a symbol of neighborhood unity. The judge raised an eyebrow and replied flatly, "It was a swing." Karen, completely serious, repeated, "It was the swing." Then my lawyer laid everything out. The swing had been placed legally on my own land. I'd taken it down legally too. Karen had no HOA backing, no lawful right to trespass, and definitely no grounds to stage noisy protests or threaten me. We closed with video footage of her yelling, "He'll regret this if the swing doesn't return," and chucking a sign into my bushes. The judge stopped the video, looked at her and said, "Ma'am, that sounds like a threat." She stammered something about it being a figure of speech, but he wasn't buying it. He leaned back, let out a long breath and said, "Miss Karen, your actions were illegal and frankly ridiculous." Then he hit her with the verdict. She had to pay me $15,000 to cover damages, harassment, and attorney fees. She sat there frozen, mouth open like a fish, tried to object, but the judge had already turned to the next case. I didn't say much, just soaked in the moment. From that day forward, Karen was a shadow of her former self. The megaphone disappeared. No more flyers. No more sidewalk chalk declaring swing lives matter. She slunk around the neighborhood like a ghost in yoga pants and oversized shades, head down in defeat. Meanwhile, Mark Reynolds, walked a little taller, about $15,000 taller, to be exact. Still, I wasn't going to let her forget what happened. I took part of that court settlement and hired a landscaper, not just to spruce up the yard, but to leave a lasting reminder. The patch where the swing once hung, I had it transformed into a garden shaped like a judge's gavel. No joke. The border was stone. The gavel head bloomed with deep red conus, and lavender made up the handle. Right in the center stood a wooden plaque reading, "This property found not guilty. Case closed. No appeals from Karen's allowed." Faced her house. Every time she opened the blinds, it was staring back. Neighbors noticed. One dad laughed and called it a bold move. Another muttered, "Finally shut her up." Someone even left me a bottle of wine on the porch with a note congratulating me for surviving Swinggate. Karen tried to raise another HOA complaint about the plaque, but I checked no rules against decorative signage under 3 feet. And after that courtroom loss, she had zero sway left in the neighborhood. Word on the street was the board had a quiet emergency vote and politely pushed her to step down from her HOA duties to avoid more embarrassment. She didn't go gracefully, of course. I heard she claimed she was the victim of a bored man with a personal grudge, which was ironic coming from the woman who led a 4-day protest over a backyard swing. The kids eventually stopped asking about the swing. They moved on. One even knocked on my door to ask if I'd build a treehouse instead. I told them, nope, lesson learned. These days, when I mow my lawn and pass that gavel-shaped flower bed, I can't help but smile. Not because I won, but because some battles teach a truth that sticks. If you're going to start swinging, you better be ready for the fall.